Okay. All right. Hello, dear world. My voice finds you again. All right. All right, guys. Let's dive into this. The battle between language and the soul. The battle for control between language and the soul. And really, for this episode, what I have to say to the viewers. I want to read for the viewers a quote from Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein says, one of the most important quotes for anyone who's interested in philosophy. Philosophy is a battle against the bewitchment of our intelligence by means of language. Philosophy can be considered a tool that clarifies the confusions that language overlays upon reality. So dear viewers, dear soul roaming cyberspace that potentially has found this video, let one human being try to explain to you how there is a conflict of interest between the true nature of a being and the language that that being organizes itself with, the language of nature. So in this episode, I'm trying to look at the nature of the human experience and its relationship with language, and then also the relationship of the human experience with its consciousness. Now, I have a unique view and what's even more unique about my view is that it's a view that I consider that it needs to be universalized. So I'm opening the notebook, guys, to brainstorm this episode. It's a serious one. So the battle. So the question is, what is a battle? And then the battle for control. What do we mean by control? What do we mean the battle for control between language and the soul? So technically, this sentence, the battle for control between language and the soul, this sentence can be understood if we can have a comprehensive, if we can have an image. By the way, guys, the way my mind works is it's a cinematic experience behind my eyes. So when I read a sentence, it has to point, it's kind of like a small film for me. So when I think of the battle for control between language and the soul, it's as if we have two positions, a linguistic, a language, a position. So let's think of existence as an event. Now this event is powered by multidimensional processes. So what does that mean? What appears to us as a simple singularity, upon further inspection, is actually a very organized complexity. So right now, my biological body is the organization of, let's say, my cardiovascular system, my nervous system, my endocrine system. Different systems are simultaneously leading to the position of the human body. So when a human being looks at this sentence, the battle for control between language and existence, it's a battle of an inner nature. So maybe I should speak about this. There are some battles that are external. In this lifetime, I've had a few when I was younger. External battles are more pretty much about the smarter hit. So in external reality, let's say there are inner battles. So we have the concept of battle. We have an inner battle. And we have an outer battle. So, guys, I'm trying to build up to this theory I have. No, it's not a theory. It's just how I experience reality. So I consider an inner realm, an outer realm. I consider the human existence to be a multidimensional position. The most immediate multidimensionality of its position is the dualistic experience. So really, the human body may appear as a singular existence. Okay, let me let me, not to confuse the viewers, let me start over with a different form, with a different view. So what we're wondering about, the idea of language, the idea of soul, the idea of battle, and the idea of control. These relate to a human. So to understand the title, we have to understand the human position. The human position is very interesting because if we were to level it out or try to understand its layers, there is an existential outer world. And then there is an experiential, so there is an existential outer world. And then we have an experiential inner world. That means when I, as a human being, look at something, anything. Right now, I'm looking at the wall of this coffee shop I'm in front of in my car, right? So when I see this wall has an external existence. But when I ask myself, why do I call this a wall? Why do I have a symbolic representation for something that already exists? Because the symbolic representation is the existence of the outer form in an inner environment. So, dear viewers, from the beginning of your life, there has been a multidimensional thing going on here. And our species has matured, had matured towards this multiplicity, but now it has actually immaturized itself. I don't know how to say it. It's like certainty, or this force of us to try to make the world make sense actually made our observation of reality smaller. Rather than trying to understand why our ancestors considered a soul, we threw away the idea. But the idea cannot be thrown away. Why? Because its geometry lives on. What does this mean? That means back in the day, there was this ancient idea of the soul. And the soul was defined as that which cannot be created or destroyed and changes from lifetime to lifetime into different formats. Now, in this modern age, we're like, yo, what's like that? The closest thing we have to the word soul is the word energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it changes from form to form. The soul cannot be created or destroyed, it changes from life form to form. So it could be said that it would be a healthy representation that the soul is a unique type of energy, or it's an energy causally outreaching in effect. What I'm trying to say is there could be a chance that human consciousness was planted, was seed, was. What I'm trying to say is consciousness that the human being has could potentially be a quality of space, which then would infuse the idea of energy and space. And there is something paradoxical with the idea of energy and then the idea of space. Because in order for something to exist, it needs to have energy. And then at the same time, right, the energy needs to have a place to exist. So the question is bizarre. Is space a type of energy where matter is a type of energy inside? Or is space something that surpasses energy? So, anyways, I'm trying to bring your attention to how the title of this episode, the concepts that are found in the title relate to the human. Okay, the human position. The human position, we have a biological body in a physical body, in a physical world. That's our existential outer world, right? And then every person that is alive right now on this earth is accessing a private version of the earth, which is rendered through the unique position and through the uniqueness of how nobody else has their DNA and nobody has the consciousness. That means nobody knows you like you, because if they did, they would be you. So existence in the human format is designed in a way, or let me say it this way: life for a human being is designed in a way where in front of your eyes you are existing in a place, but what that place means is actually an existence behind your eyes. This classification, this separation between these two is very crucial, because it implies that even though there is one physical world, there is 8 billion non-physical worlds. So there is one physical version of Earth, but there is 8 billion subjective versions of the world. So we are actually in one physical world, but we're also inside in a world where there is 8 billion subjective versions of that world. Now, when I say 8 billion, I am saying that there's a population of 8 billion plus. So each individual human is actually starting off through the meaning and the value of a personalized view of Earth. So to be honest, everybody is starting from their own world, their own version of Earth. And what is the purpose of education? The purpose of education is in something in the similar to how a blacksmith straightened a sword parallel to the electromagnetic fields of the Earth. What does that mean? This means that as each person that has started from their own world, like a blacksmith that straightens a sword to make it ready for battle, you have to constantly build a hammer, or think of it this way, find some sort of articulation, intellectual method, okay, or find some sort of system you can trust. Okay, and what tends to happen is that you are in some sense realigning your inner life to the accuracy of the outer as in relation to the experiences you have. What I'm trying to say is that there is not just one world, and there are dimensions to this being that we are, and its attention in these dimensions create a conflict of interest between its presence and between its personalized presence, which we call personality. Ludwig Wittgenstein has this quote in this incredible book he wrote called The Tractatus. Okay, he says the first sentence of this book is, the world is everything that is the case. What he's suggesting is that the world is not made up of things, the world is made up of facts. It is in actuality a process of the acceptance of the most accurate symbol. So I am trying to tell you, dear listener, that you may consider yourself existentially in front of your eyes as an individual, as one sort of thing. But in actuality, you're like a Russian doll or an onion, and I will explain these layers. So let us say that there is, let's start with positions. So we have a body. So right now I have a biological body. Now when I ask myself, how do I know that I am a biological organism? I notice that in the simultaneity of my existence, there is a simultaneity of my existence being in the space of an attention that is spherically arising from me. So what does that mean? When it comes to experiencing life, it's as if our body is in the presence of our mind. It's as if our mind is a room, our body is in it. Now, ancient times, they had the idea of the soul. The best way I found to explain this to audiences, this trio of body, mind, soul, to explain it to audiences in some sense, is that the true nature of the human being is actually the same anywhere it is, But it's that just like we have the notion of body, mind, soul in the esoteric context, from an exoteric context, the body is like a substance's state. So what it implies is solidity. So the body is a solid. The mind is a liquid. The soul is gas. And this is a perfect metaphor. Why? Because we can see the solid, we can see the liquid, we can see steam, but we cannot see, as the particles begin moving faster and faster, there is less structure. So we can say that rather than it's a soul that has a body, and then as a soul that is projecting a mind that is moving a body, in some sense we can say that the body, mind, and soul are three dimensions and three frequencies of reality. It's like a radio. It's like you tune the radio, suddenly the energy that was present, okay, is all phenomena, is form. Human beings, their sense of knowledge is based on form, right? So if I ask you, how do you know something, you are relating shapes. So the body is a shape, is a form. Right now, I am in a human form, and I am using, through this human form, linguistic form to communicate to you. So if you think of this traditional, if the old world was like, yo, body, mind, soul, body 100% unknown, mind semi-known, semi-unknown, soul 100% unknown. The only way you can know the soul is if you realize you have never been anything else, by the way. So take in this notion that there is a solid existence, there is a liquid existence, and there is a gas existence. Okay, I'm just using this as metaphors. So you would come and say the solid existence is objects, it's forms, it's like, making a snowball and throwing it at something. That's a solid existential event. If we were to look at a liquid existential event, we would try to notice how an object, so what is a liquid? A liquid is an object where the particles are moving faster and faster and faster. So because there is more movement, there is less form. Now, what is very fascinating, right, is that you speed up the particles that constitute a solid, they become liquid. And that liquidity has flexibility. Guess what? Your mind has freedoms of visualization that in front of your eyes defy the laws of physics. The fact that an atheist can come and say, yo, this is fiction. The fact that we human beings can consider fiction, do you understand, is the suggestion of its being there. That means if superstition didn't exist, why did it matter at all? Do you see? So anyways, what I'm trying to tell you is that objects are like a solid, okay? That's the realm of existence, the body. We have subjects are like liquids. They are fluid, okay? They are less accurate, okay? I can tell a story and the story may be, similar to the physicality. Do you understand? But it doesn't replace the physicality. And then when we go to gas, so if we are like, yo, biology is a solid existential technology, language, what our minds use is the storytelling process that is simultaneously occurring the same time our existential process is going on. It's like we're not just an object, we're an object that has made itself the main character of its life force, the force that moves life is actually in attendance of its own performance. So what is the soul? This took me a while to understand, but the soul is actually a realization that the individual event, which is the human biological experience, is simultaneously taking place with a collective cosmic existential event. So when you see, the body is individual, super individual. It's our minds that give us a permission for some sort of collectivity, for some sort of community, for some sort of acceptance as a group of organisms of law, of value. So the mind is actually the collaborative factor. It's very hard to work with people without a mind, or without a concentrated mind, a grounded mind. And take this from someone who I'm someone who I was like, yo, if I ever find someone who I'm going to live with the rest of my life, this person has to, like, I'm like this person who keeps like floating into the air and people have to pull him back, you know? It's like, oh my God, Mr. Within's flying again. Let's keep him underneath the atmosphere. So anyways, where I'm going with this, ancients had body, mind, soul. In this current modernity, we find matter, we find objects, subjects, and then when it comes to the soul, you see, I decided not to speak about metaphysics, but because the advancement of civilization requires a transformation of the individual from the ego it is stuck in, there has to come some sort of experiential factor. Usually it comes on its own, kind of like when the student is ready, the master appears. When you have cultivated enough awareness, when you have experienced enough the movement of objects and subjects simultaneously, there will be moments throughout this lifetime where you will be watching an object and subject moving simultaneously, and you will ask yourself, how have I been identifying with that I am watching? Like right now, if I'm looking outside of my car and I'm seeing a tree, because I see that tree, I am not that tree. Because I am outside of that tree has an existence. Because my biological existence is separate from the natural world, I am not, I can have a relationship where, yo, I'm different than everything else in existence. So you see, movement has created the illusion of separation, but it has also given, it's like a tool. The battle for control between language and the soul is the suggestion that there is a multidimensional force, multidimensional intelligence here. It is active on an existential level. It is active on an experientially subjective level. It's existentially active on an objective level. But at the same time, this is really, okay, because I put the word soul in the title, I guess I got to speak about it. If you are an individual who is religious, the soul is beyond human understanding. The soul is like a power that surpasses, that is, imagine there is something, imagine there's like electricity, and then this electricity powers up a car, but it also powers up a cell phone. Okay? Or not a cell phone, let's say let's say, you know, you plug a microwave and a hair dryer, something like that. And those two objects are being used. You're going to see in the instance of using the hair dryer or the microwave, you are being that. But the electricity that is powering those machines, those devices, is not the device. And so the same sort of idea follows, that that which is powering the existential biological process and that which is powering the subjective experiential process is the power is not what's being powered up. Okay? So what I'm trying to say, and it's not just something what I'm saying, it's what the old world said. Right now, I don't know, like, you know, how old are you, whoever you are listening, okay? But in the old world, people did not have Google. They did not have an ability to research and rationalize reality from written information or accounts. What they had was just realizing, all right, I'm this being that has come into existence in some place with, and this place has been here way before we existed. So that human being in back in the day, they would see like some person who has cultivations. This, imagine they saw someone who doesn't get angry, where everyone is getting angry. They suddenly see someone who is not violent, where everyone is violent. They suddenly see someone who is patient when it comes to listening. They're actually accessing information when they listen. Most people hear to respond. Some people listen to understand. When you listen to understand, it means the information you're hearing has to be positioned somewhere in your principal universal philosophy or in the main story that is running your life right now. If you notice, human beings, they are creatures that storify themselves. Do you know? And it took me a while to understand what love is. Okay, I went and saw, I pretty much looked up like the lovers of history, okay? The most famous love stories, and they're all tragedies. It's kind of fucked up. But that's why they became, I guess, notable, right? Because the idea that love is so precious that even if we try to get it, that is romantic. Do you know? If even if we don't get it, just the attempt to get it, okay? What love on some level is in some sense becoming a character in a story of more than one reality. In ancient, like, I don't know, I mean, like, older people, like my grandfather's like, yo, when you get married, two eyes become four eyes, you know? When you marry, you know, two hands become four hands. And I was like, okay, grandpa, I get it. What I'm trying to say is, back in the day, they didn't have Google. Pretty much they would go to some sage, some enlightened guy, and they'd be like, yo, what should I do? I'm like some being that's appeared. What do I do, enlightened guy? And the enlightened guy would be like, you should do what everybody does. You go in nature, you sit down, and you ask yourself honestly, for once in your lifetime, you truly ask yourself, who am I? What is looking through my eyes right now? What is present right now? Where is the intelligence of my activity arising from? And you will understand that it's an instantaneous noticing. So, what I mean is that the body is in time, okay? Because there's stuff in space that changes. The mind is also where the time truly is real. And so the story of our lives has time. Time is relevant. And because of the story of our lives, of our time, because it's a story, it can be seen anywhere pretty much, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the idea of the soul was that in ancient times when they would say, when you ask, who am I? You're actually noticing that there has been something present from the beginning of your existence, even in states of deep sleep. You think it's not there, but it is. Okay? It's the presence of being, it's the first contact. It's like prior to, think of it this way. Imagine there's this glowing being, and this being stationed itself beyond time. So it would be as if, like, if I let's say get a drone camera and I move the drone, right? And let's say I have these goggles that make my vision from the drone. Okay? It would be as if I am not the drone, but when I move it, I am the drone. It's like Tony Stark is not the Iron Man suit, but when he moves, he is the Iron Man suit. I am not my body, but when my body moves, I am it. I am not my mind, but when it moves, I am it. When I move with it, I am it. But Tony Stark will go fight endless, like ridiculous amount of opponents, and then come home and take off the Iron Man suit. Let's say he wants to eat a shawarma. Let's say he wants to, you know, exercise or something. You know, it's like Tony Stark is not the Iron Man suit. The original, when Sri Ramana Maharshi was asked what is the truth, he said the truth is so simple. It is nothing more than being in your original state. So the soul is the original state of attention. So it's really, think of it this way, attention is piloting a mind so it can drive a body. But the pilot is not the plane. The driver is not the vehicle. So it's kind of like, right now I ask myself, my body follows what organizational command? It follows the organizational command of what my mind can visualize me doing. Okay? Then I ask myself, what organizational command does my mind follow? And this is where the organization, see, when you question the body, the answers come to psychology. So when you wonder about the value of biology, you're coming into psychology. But when you wonder about the value of psychology, you're actually realizing the human psychology is a narrative. So you're noticing that you are a creature beyond language. So if right now you were not your name, you were not a written story of yourself, you were not a character in a story, you would most likely realize, all right, if I am not a personality, but I am still here, what am I? And the best word we have for it is presence. So if the modern people don't like the word soul, call it presence. The presence of our being is a question mark. It is. I tried to really open the box with the question mark on it, and I came into this realization that it's not in human authority. So a human being may want to leave the world or move beyond the world, but the world has a reason why the human being is here. So in some sense, I have concluded that really the purpose of human life is that you serve yourself until you realize yourself is relevant to everything else. Then you serve everything else. So if I want to serve myself, And let's say there's, my individuality. So all right, I serve myself, but then I see, like, what's the point of being a served individual in a world? So you realize, no, 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 it's not about the updating of one psychological program. It's not just like one person's inner realm updates and then they update the outer realm. The idea is, how do we create a world where new children are being born in the highest, in the greatest standard? That's what an advanced civilization means. An advanced civilization means, what does your species truly deserve? What do you deserve? Do you deserve to be present in the most advanced initiative in the universal sector? Or do you deserve to hide in the cave of your own life story? The battle for control between the language and the soul is the suggestion of, there is a story that is dictating your behavior, and then there is a dictation of behavior in accordance to your original perception. Because the thing about us becoming creatures of language is, in actuality, the possibility of human beings being changed by a story. So if you think you're a good character in a story, and then I can come and say, like, da 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 da, you're a bad character in a story. Or if you think you're a bad character in a story, why does religion have this whole redemption angle? They're like, confess, return to your original state, and then function, right? But the idea is, are you a character in a story? Like right now, imagine okay, instead of writing a novel, imagine I write a novel, but the novel is my own life story. And so right now, imagine I visualize a story which is my own life. Okay, imagine I create a character, I write a novel, and I create a world for this character. I create a journey. I create the karma of the character and the journey of the novel and all of that, right? But then it's kind of like, imagine instead of writing fiction, the novel is myself, right? And we're here being like, yo, man, that guy's a novelist. That guy's a writer. I'm not a writer. Well, guess what? You are writing, or you are imposing a story of your life. So what is the difference between me picking up a pen and writing writing a novel with the character's name being like, I don't know, Exodius or something? Do you know what I mean? Right? Or me creating a novel and instead calling the character my name. Do you understand? That means the mind is an ingenious method of fiction to expand non-fiction, so the non-fiction updates in accordance to the fiction, so it is not fiction anymore. Life is in some sense, it's like the human position is being stretched between the ideas of what based on this. It's like the story of your life is pulling you, simultaneously how your true nature is aligning you. So it's like two forces are fighting for your will. I'm not kidding, okay? But these forces, one of them, because of its position, has authorization. All right, there was a time where I thought, yo, uh existential cosmic design, why does the human have to shut down its psychological program? Isn't that an interesting question? Why is it that, we wake up in the morning, logged into the conscious waking state, function, 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 then at some point at night, we're like, all right, logging out of the conscious self that lived the day, and then we go into deep sleep, complete vanishing of subjective selfhood, and then we wake up in the morning as if, like, all right, it was nothing that I disappeared to myself, and I'm gonna just continue again. It has become so regular for us to step in and out of consciousness that I, on some level, don't understand the fear of death. I think it was Epicurus. He said the fear, if death means there's nothing to experience pain, why do we fear that pain? Epicurus said something like this. And it's because the mind is living ahead of the body, so it tries to experience the future of the body before the body actually steps into the future. So think of it this way, that you are a multidimensional intelligence. A part of your intelligence, or let me make it this way. Life is a video game. Let's say it's a video game. One level of the video game is a physical survival game. Okay? Another part of the game is a psychological story value game. Okay? Psychological story game. And a part of it, okay, so one level, all right, I gotta maintain this biological existential position for 100 years or whatever amount. And then I have a psychological game. The psychological game is the legacy of the human story. It's the legacy of your humanity. Right now, you are a human. You're a member of the human species. You have a story. But your story, if you are emotional, let me tell you this. I think what tends to happen is that everybody has been designed to care for the collective system. It's just that they've also been designed to care for advancement, or not to care for victory. Or let me see if I can simplify this more. We have the self, we have others, and we have the world. Okay? You need your body to be a self. You need a mind to be with others. You need a mind and body to notice the world. Okay? If I ask myself, where does myself arise from? It arises from my body. When I ask, where do others arise from to me? It's from my mind. When I ask, where does the world arise? It's also from my mind. But if I was to ask and try to see a question, okay, that means if the self was a question mark, it would be as if, what is physicality? If when it comes to others or the mind was a question mark, what is a character? That's the question that comes to the mind. What does it mean to be a character in a story of your own exposition? And when it comes to the world, what is it at all? Do you understand what time we're living in? We're living in such an incredible time that on some level, I don't understand why everybody isn't shell-shocked, okay, by the massive unknown situation we come in, right? It's like, let me tell you how I feel. Like, people say society is brainwashed, but let me tell you how I think it's brainwashed. Okay? I think society had to brainwash itself. It had to. Okay? Why? Because the actuality of our position in life is freaky. It's scary. That means outside the language of your mind, outside of the language of your world, which means its knowledge, its laws, You know, even technology, it arose from language. See, right now, imagine you're in a box. You're in a box which the dimensions of the box, the sides of the box include a language program. They include a cultural program. The language program allows you to include a sequential historic program. Okay, so what it is that our ancestors were really the brave ones. They were the ones that opened their eyes in a world that was way bigger than them, way unknown, and way meaningless. And how does consciousness react to a massive unknown meaninglessness? It diverges. Consciousness had to lie to itself. The reason life feels like a simulation, because the mind is a reaction to the void. It's as if the brainwashing that we're in right now is a necessary protective layer until the being is strong enough to truly confront the unknown. That means there are some, they said knowledge is power, but they forgot to mention knowledge is present in the unknown. There is more unknown than the known. So the unknown, knowledge is an unknown power. It's the power of the unknown becoming present in a moment. Ludwig Wittgenstein has this nice quote. He says, "We feel that even if all possible scientific questions be answered, the problems of life have still not been touched at all." Why? Because we are not a physical entity. Because behind our eyes, like right now, in front of my eyes, I'm inside a physical car. I can close my eyes and visualize this same car, me pressing a button, and this car lifting 100 meters into the air. I can visualize that. This means that the law of gravity acts upon my outer realm, but it does not act upon my inner realm. It means your imagination is a version of the world where the laws of physics have not restricted it. Your mind deviates from physical law to understand the physical law. So what it means is that it's like we are a creature that is neither nonfiction, neither fiction. Our body is nonfiction. Our mind has to be a fiction, so then it can double check where the body is going. But what is authoring this nonfiction and fictitious story? The author is neither fiction or nonfiction, in the same way that if I was to right now imagine a character, okay, let's say I create a character called Albus, okay, like right now that random name came, okay, so let's say there's a character I create called Albus in a world called Benign World or something. Okay, so Albus in Benign World, okay, imagine suddenly becomes conscious that that Albus is in Benign World. So imagine I've closed my eyes, I'm visualizing a character, trying to create a story in my mind, eyes closed still, and imagine this character I've created in this subjective novel in my mind suddenly gets consciousness and says, "Yo, who created me?" To that character in my fiction novel, the fiction is real because the character is fiction. Do you understand? If reality is based on form, it can never surpass the form that's accessing that reality. So truth is limited to the human form if we think we are human only. And that could be an error. Why? Because we could be an expression of a process that far surpasses human activity. That means the human is not the causal position. What that means is the human is not the seed that became a tree. The human is like the fruit of the tree. So we cannot say the human being is just a human. The whole tree is the tree. And even the whole tree is connected to the soil. So to even find a categorizational limit, to be able to contain a phenomena that is so interconnected, a living phenomena, is impossible to individuate. Because in order to be alive and dynamic, it is interconnected. So the battle between language, the battle for control between language and the soul, is the suggestion of, are you living your life in accordance to what realness? Are you living in accordance to an objective reality? That means objects are real. I don't give a fuck about anything else. All right. Then, are you living in accordance to, no, objects can't be real because I'm naming these objects. So are subjects real? That object became a subjective value. So are subjects real? Right? And you're like, no, it can't just be fucking subjects because there's objects, right? So then you come and ask yourself, okay, I am looking at this object in front of me, okay, this wall, and then the idea of its wall is how a part of my consciousness awareness is looking at the subject it is. But then I ask, how do I know that this, what I'm calling this wall in front of me, is an object and it's a subject? And you'll notice, and you can close your eyes right now and I'll prove this to you, okay? I want you to look at an object in front of you and then close your eyes and envision it. Envision that object. Now keep your eyes closed, keep envisioning that object that was in front of you that you're still visualizing. And while your eyes are closed and you are perfectly seeing the visualization of the object in your mind, ask yourself, who is seeing the idea while your eyes are closed? You can close your eyes and see. Who is seeing? It's not a who, because the who is limited to sight. So what is experiencing human life cannot be human in order to be the human. Right now, I am not this car, but this car needs me to move. I am not my body. It needs something to move. I am not my thoughts. It needs something to move. And what it needs is the space. So there could be that there is like matter, there is space. The matter has been changing in the space. If the space had an ability to be conscious, then no matter can prove the consciousness. So if consciousness is a quality of space, and space is a quality of nature that surpasses, that means it's a secret of energy. If man cannot understand energy greater than form, like right now when we look at light, for example, right, it's a particle wave duality. What does that mean? That means it can be a form, a static form, or it can be a dynamic wave. Do you understand? It's either a shape or it's something that's shaping. I mean, I'm not a physicist, but physics, there's fascinating ideas in it, you know? Even with Einstein's relativity, just the notion that it's like there's a curvature to space. We're not on like just flat, just like an empty space. There's gravity is creating a sort of curvature around phenomena, or is a curvature around phenomena. Or as if the experience that the human being was having of its perception of light, right, was justifiable in a realm where it was as if it's like something has captured something. Think of it this way: anything we look at that we cannot comprehend Either there is something unknown about it that we have not figured out, or the starting position was wrong. But anyways, guys, all I'm trying to say is that you have a presence. Let's call this the soul. This is the big circle. Inside your presence, okay, you have speech. This relates to your mind, the whole narrative engine. And then inside that circle, you have form. So you have a shape. When shape begins to move, it starts to remember its movement, which then leads to story development, the character in the story, the sense of self. And then beyond, it's like you are a physical character, but you are an objective character, but you're also a subjective character. And the world of your mind, that means the world, what life means to you when your eyes are closed, and what life means to you when your eyes are open, is the same as trying to compare two worlds with different properties, with different freedoms. So think of it this way. If you base the story of your life on your body, it's limited to the form. So if I think I'm a shape, then when shapes change, I become happy. But if I consider I am not a shape, I am actually the space where shapes have been moving in my experience. When we move the physical body, it's like we're moving in something. But when you sit still in nature and just watch, it's as if you're watching reality move in front of you. Like, I don't know if people have experienced like sitting in a coffee shop, looking out the window and seeing people pass by. It's as if the world, the mind is experiencing, the mind is like a world where the world moves in. It's like our bodies are moving in a physical world, but then the physical world is moving in our inner world. And then the question comes, where is our inner world moving? And it's kind of like saying, where is the yin and yang? So if the yang is the external realm, is the outer realm, and the yin is the inner realm, the circle that holds these two is the soul. The soul is beyond dualistic justification because the dualistic justifications are being used to define the mind and body. So if the soul is beyond mind and body, by definition, it cannot be dual. So by definition, it cannot be individual. But this doesn't mean it's what I'm saying is 100% true. Why? Because I am considering that the unknown variables to the like the human being has access to a spectrum, but it doesn't have access to it cannot fully understand like the top and bottom of the spectrum. So what I'm saying is that your body has access to a small, based on like how much awareness you have to physicality, like has access to a small portion of a very big story. Your mind has access to the big story, but if it like think of it this way. You are a being, liquid, solid, liquid, gas. Okay. This means your body is a singular technology. Your mind is a dualistic technology. The soul is a non-dual reaching infinity kind of technology. I found it very strange that if evolution meant that survival is the key, we're trying to stick around as long as we want, that's actually what an immortal being does. So it's kind of weird. Our body is mortal, but our minds, our character, it's like our body is in a mortal story, mortal existential story, a character in a mortal existential story. Our mind is an immortal character. Our mind, the idea of us does not want, because it's not physical, a part of us is like, yo, how does the idea of me die? Like, you know, I sleep, wake up, and the next day I still have an idea. Do you see what I'm saying? We haven't like honestly, guys, I don't know who you are. I don't know what kind of being you are. You know, but I know that every person, like right now, if you were to zoom in on 8 billion human beings and their DNA, it's kind of like a micro X-Men, right? So for example, in the X-Men, it was a school for, like, you know, gifted mutant children, right? Like, we all have the same human form, same abilities, but on a DNA level, do you understand? It's like we're the same product, but we each have a different code. Okay, we're the same, we're all human beings, but we each have a different DNA. Okay, so the DNA is like our biological serial number. Okay. If we treat reality like a program, there is a programmer. If you wonder how is the program of the body meaningful, we find the mind. When we ask ourselves what is we use language which the mind provides to make sense of the body and to put the body in a story. But if we were to ask what is aware that the mind is creating a story for the body, that awareness surpasses language. So what I'm trying to tell you is that when you experience life in the metaphor of like a solid, right? It's like there is enough separation for sequential meaning. When you experience life in a liquid sense, right? The sequential meaning is it's like there's many layers. It's like an object is static in its meaning. A liquid is not static in its meaning. A liquid takes the shape. The mind actually can be considered a technology that doesn't have shape, but it takes the shape of what the body allows. So think of it this way, that your body is like a cup, the mind is like the liquid we pour in the cup. It's the content to the body. But what drinks the liquid, what drinks the cup of water, what experiences the mind that has fulfilled the body, that is fulfilling the body, is not the mind or the body. That means when I drink a cup of water, I am not the water, I am not the cup, but they are significant to my existence. So we can say that there is three lives we're living. We're living a life as an object, we're living life as a subject, as a creature of language, and then we're living life as a creature of attention. So your life as a creature of form is your body and follows the metaphor of solidity in a substance, so solid, liquid, gas. Okay. When it comes to your mind, that's like it's okay. So your body is your life in form. Your mind is life in moving form, which is language in many forms. And the soul, so okay, and the soul is your life in as attention. So think of it this way: there is attention, there is speech, and then there's a story, and there's a form, there's a body, right? So I'm a creature of form in my outer realm. So right now I'm a creature of form. I have biological existence. I have a personality. So that means I'm a creature of language. Okay? So creature of form, body, creature of language, mind. There is an attention where the language and the form is moving, where the mind and body is moving. So the soul is how you are an entitlement of attention. You are an attention being. If you're in your mind, you're a language being, and in your body, you're a formed, physical being. So the battle for control between language and the soul is a suggestion that you, as a life form, your body specifically, is it being influenced by how your attention is being, or is it based on what your mind is doing? And I want to leave you off, dear friends, with this idea from Lao Tzu, where he says something. I don't remember it verbatim, but I could tell you the idea of it. The quote, he's saying something in the lines of like, if you want to do something, or the secret to doing things is being. Do you understand? That means there's a way where, like, I want to go and do something, and become something. Those people struggle. But there's someone who's like, yo, I am the greatest runner. I am the greatest speaker. I am the greatest designer. You see, it's like they're already being it, and the mind has to just, the mind doesn't have to prove it can be. In the inner realms, it's real. In the outer realms, it's just being realized. But if something is not real to you, if it's not real to you that you can do something, okay, then regardless of how much you do it, because you are not being it, you can't access it. So the secret to accessing realities on earth is by realizing how it's being. So it's kind of like, think of it this way. Imagine someone hearing the Godfather melody, and then they've heard the music, so then when they learn it, it's easy to recreate it, right? They just have to learn to play it. But imagine someone who's never heard the Godfather melody, right? So they haven't heard that, right? So if they're trying to recreate that, if they're trying to be someone who can play the Godfather melody on piano, they're going to see, if they've never heard it before, it's not going to be natural to them. Do you see? This is why they said the world belongs to the people who are bold. Why? Because people who are bold are not struggling with inner having issues. I'm someone, take it from someone who had massive trust issues. Why? Because some part of my psyche didn't trust my existence. I don't know. Maybe something happened when I was a kid, whatever. But I had trust issues, and I still do have trust issues. But but there are moments where, honestly, I come, and it's like, when I reach a situation, before I can trust the situation, I have to ask myself, can I trust myself? And usually in situations where I can see myself having trusted. So like when I give these talks, before I give the talk, in my mind, I see myself talking about it. And if I can see myself talking about it, if I see a concept very deeply that I could go swim in the idea and discover things about, then I give the talk. But the idea is, it's possible before I do it. So when I do it, it's easy. Okay, and how it became possible was because I set for myself a goal where I'm like, I want to give 10,000 talks in this lifetime, right? So that means I should be able to give a talk anytime, anywhere. So imagine being someone who has to give 10,000 talks. So giving a talk anytime should not be a problem, so you can accumulate the talks, right? So what I'm trying to say is, set yourself such a high standard, right? So behind your eyes live in such an advanced civilization that as you live in the outer realms, advanced things happen. Okay, I'm that person who's saying, yo, we are 8 billion advanced beings, 4.5 billion years in the making. And now the question is not that are we advanced or not. We're definitely the most advanced type of intelligent activity on earth, right? The question is, can we all be advanced? I'm trying to get the species to trust in the greatness of itself, because why else are we here? We're here to perform for the worlds to come. We're here to design things for them. Okay, like I'm sitting here trying to design insight. You, dear listener, you are not just you. You cannot act like you are just you. You are the effort of all of our ancestors. My great ancestors influenced the world you're living in, and your great ancestors influenced the world I'm living in. And I will influence the world, and you will influence the world that all of our great grandchildren live in, right? So the idea is that whether you do something or not, you're having an influence here. But what kind of influence do you want to have? Please, oh human being that is roaming cyberspace now, the greatness of your species depends on the greatness of your design. And how great are you designed? When you look at everything that's designed, right now our technologies are trying to create something close to the human being. Do you understand? That means you are superior evolutionary technology. We all are. You know, right now, somebody could be like, yo, I don't like you. I'll be like, you don't like a 4.5 billion year old evolutionary technology whose ancestors had to make the right decisions for him to exist so he could speak for you? My life cannot just be my life, because everyone's life is happening right here. And, I take pride in being, at least the first person in my ancestry to enter cyberspace. It's like, my ancestors traveled from different countries, you know, and then my parents traveled from, Iran to Canada. And guess what? I took the DNA from, physical reality into cyberspace. It's so beautiful. Because if our existence didn't have to change the world, we wouldn't need to exist. There's something about our mere existence here. It's playing a role, even if it's small. Like when I was young, when my family would go to vacation, right? Like I remember we went to England when I was young. And I remember when we were walking, we were taking like a picture, like a bunch of tourists, right? And I remember seeing other tourists take pictures, and I thought how many people's background, for how many human beings on this planet have I been the background wallpaper to their reality? I've just been there in the back of how many photos of tourists, how many photos of people, how many eyes of consciousness gazing upon the realm, right? My life, if I'm ignorant, is my life, you know but in reality, it's an effort. I'm just part of a dynamic activity of a biological program, you know cultivating a capability to become a psychological program, the psychological program cultivating a capability to know that it's beyond a psychological entity. And what's beyond the psychological entity, my philosophy, my vision is that human form loops, but if you transcend form, like right now, we have creatures that move on land, and we have creatures that fly, and we have creatures that move in the ocean, as if their intelligence is designed for their environment. Now imagine there is a non-physical environment. This is very hard to imagine. What kind of intelligence would be designed to function in a non-physical environment? An intelligence that is faster than the physical appearance. Because what physicality is a certain speed that particles are moving. So we can say, this was even the arrival of consciousness had to do with temperature, a temperature shift. Like, think of it this way. Particles had to move slow enough for us to see our face in the mirror. They asked the Buddhist, they asked the yogi, do you believe in the periodic table of elements? And the person's like, yes, I believe that the periodic table is reincarnating as all of us. And they're like, okay. Just... oh, humanity, what will you do? What will you do in the ever-presence of a space-time continuum? And Mr. Within and Mr. Kardashev look at human civilization and they wonder when it will start climbing the staircase of the future. One thing we can do, and I learned this from Lord of the Rings. People are going to be like, what? From Lord of the Rings, the third movie. In the third movie of Lord of the Rings, in that scene where the armies of Rohan, right, have gone to kind of protect the kingdom of Mordor, right, even though those guys were douchebags to them. But the real king of Gondor was with them. So anyways, there's this king called Theoden King. He's one of my favorite characters from Lord of the Rings. And there's a scene where they've defeated this army that was in front of the gates of Gondor, right? But then they look back, the king is like, they're all happy, the king's given this great speech, right? And then they see these giant elephants coming, right? And the king just looks at the scene, and like a true leader of humanity, like he looks at the scene, he sees the giant elephants, and he's like, fuck, right? Like that's his body language, okay? And so he looks at his men and he just sounds the horn and he regroups and on to the next problem to solve, So that's the strategy. The strategy is, it's not really to train people. It's to regroup, and then the antennas will know what to do in each moment. That is what Mr. Within really expects from humanity. Just like that scene in the movie Gladiator, right? There's a scene in the Colosseum where he says, diamond column. He's saying the diamond formation, right? And the organized effort of individuals leads to survival. Great survival. And to be honest, right, in order to have leadership be pure, we have to have the leaders caring for way more of a bigger value, right? That means it's like, what does Lao Tzu say? After the leader's job is done, the people will say we did it ourselves. That means the leader is leading mankind so that mankind realizes it has led itself. Imagine this hilarious thing, right? The leaders of humanity, suddenly this enlightened extraterrestrial comes down to Earth, this extraterrestrial species. And so the leaders of humanity look at this advanced extraterrestrial species and they're like, hey bro, can you build an advanced civilization for us? And imagine that extraterrestrial, looks at us and it's like, you guys can't cheat. The whole cosmos is watching your display. Everything in manifestation cares for what is manifesting alongside it. That is the cosmic benevolence, right? You, oh human beings, are a narcissistic species because you have to be. Beyond your efforts of survival, the love of humanity is the true leader. The poet Rumi has said something that I find many people, many great beings on earth also have the same view. And he says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a place. I will meet you there. For once the soul sits on that grassland, the world is too full to talk about. The most advanced beings are already living in the most advanced potential of humanity. That means if there was a level of completion of human behavior, it's as if there are some students who they finish their homework like weeks before it's due, right? So those are beings that have understood that the future is not an individual intelligent activity. It is a realization that from the beginning it's been collective. And so to be the human being you are now is a phase in nature, and it's a phase in nature to appreciate and to be grateful, because there will come a time where they will write in history books how much human beings that were alive now couldn't see, but they had access. How much sight there was which we did not, engage. And probably, there is something, there's some, because I'm an individual who's trusted his gut when it's come to this stuff. The cosmos must have like an audience for these lectures, right? There must be something, the reason they're here, the reason I'm here. And that reason, there's an explanation from the past, there's an explanation in the present, and there's an explanation in the future. I am here because the past achieved it. I am here because the present is an achievement, is an opportunity. And I'm here also because the future is a beautiful, endless destination. The human advancement, just advancement in general, in a limited system, the advancement is limited. But when we are when the cosmos appears limitless to us, then it's a limitless advancement. That means, imagine the most advanced civilization is a civilization that never stops advancing, and the speed of its advancement surpasses the speed of light, so it instantly becomes an invisible civilization, advanced civilization. Imagine they create faster than the speed of light running shoes, and suddenly you're walking and you suddenly see like two runners who are running faster than the speed of light collide. And it's like you're walking and there's nobody there, and suddenly, you like two people out of nowhere just fall out of that speed, Anyways, guys, the battle for control between language and the soul, it's a suggestion of, is your um, life just the life, is life just the life for a creature of form? Is life life for a creature of language? Or is life actually the presence of attention, which at its core, it's like the presence of an attention rooted in the unknown, but it can know itself for now? And always remember, an advanced civilization is the future's birthright. The future deserves the greatness of our best effort, of our greatest. So the greatest effort of the living is the greatest world of those to come. I don't want to tell you live your best life. I want to tell you live your most advanced life. Be the most advanced human that 8 billion others can see. And the advanced civilization and the design and the process of building an advanced civilization has already begun, because only advanced beings can build an advanced civilization. They can be in advanced ways to access advanced blueprints. Anyways, thank you for listening. And love your world while you're in it. It might surprise you.